Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel. In this video, EPS 95 pensioners, 7,500 rupee minimum pension, VDA and Ayushman Bharat, is big relief coming? A voice raised at Delhi's Jantar Mantar has once again brought the long-pending concerns of millions of EPS 95 pensioners into the spotlight. And among all the demands placed before the government, one demand is particularly important for EPS 95 pensioners. The minimum EPS 95 pension should be increased to 7,500 rupee per month. But that is not the only demand. There is also a demand to add Variable Dearness Allowance, or VDA, to this pension. And there is another major demand. EPS 95 pensioners should also receive the benefit of Ayushman Bharat. So, is this finally the beginning of a major change for EPS 95 pensioners? Has the government taken any decision? Could the minimum pension really increase from around 1,000 rupee to 7,500 rupees? And what exactly is being demanded on behalf of pensioners? Let's understand the entire issue carefully. Before we go into the topic, we request you all to subscribe to our channel and support us. Who has raised this demand? The Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, or BMS, which is associated with the RSS, has placed a long list of demands before the government concerning workers, employees and pensioners. Among these demands, the issue of EPS 95 minimum pension is particularly significant. The BMS has demanded that the minimum pension under the Employees' Pension Scheme, 1995, commonly known as EPS 95, should be increased. The demand is for a minimum pension of 7,500 rupee per month. This is one of the key demands that could directly affect EPS 95 pensioners receiving very low monthly pensions. At present, the minimum EPS 95 pension is around 1,000 rupee per month. For many pensioners, this amount has been a major concern for years. The cost of living has increased significantly. Food expenses have increased. Medicine costs have increased. Household expenses have increased. And healthcare expenses can become especially difficult after retirement. For pensioners living on a limited monthly income, every increase in the cost of essential items has a direct impact on their financial situation. That is why the demand for a substantial increase in the minimum EPS 95 pension continues to remain important. The BMS has demanded that the minimum EPS 95 pension should be increased from around 1,000 rupee to 7,500 rupee per month. This would represent a very substantial increase for pensioners currently receiving the minimum pension. But pensioners should understand one very important point. This is a demand. It should not be treated as an already approved government decision. A demand being placed before the government does not automatically mean that the government has accepted it. Therefore, unless and until there is an official government order, notification or clear announcement, pensioners should not assume that 7,500 rupees has already been approved or implemented. This distinction is extremely important because many pension-related claims circulate on social media and through forwarded messages. Now comes another very important part. The BMS demand is not simply for a fixed 7,500 rupee pension. It also wants Variable Dearness Allowance, or VDA, to be added. Why is VDA important? Because inflation continuously affects the purchasing power of money. Suppose a pensioner receives a fixed amount today. If prices continue to rise over the years while the pension remains unchanged, that pension will effectively buy fewer goods and services. That means the real value of the pension can decline. This is why the demand for VDA is significant. The objective is to provide pensioners with some relief against the impact of rising prices. Therefore, the demand can be summarized as 7,500 rupee minimum pension plus VDA. Why is VDA so important for pensioners? For a working person, salary can potentially increase over time. But a pensioner generally depends on the pension that he or she receives after retirement. If essential expenses continue to rise, a fixed pension can become increasingly difficult to manage. Medical expenses are particularly important. As pensioners grow older, healthcare requirements can become more significant. Regular medicines, medical tests, hospitalization and treatment can put substantial pressure on a limited pension. Therefore, pensioners are not only asking for a higher base pension. They are also asking for protection against inflation. That is why the VDA component is an important part of the demand. Ayushman Bharat benefit for EPS 95 pensioners. The third major part of the demand concerns healthcare. The BMS has demanded that EPS 95 pensioners should receive the benefit of Ayushman Bharat. This is important because financial security after retirement is closely connected with health security. Imagine a pensioner receiving a limited monthly pension but suddenly facing a major medical expense. A significant part of the pension could disappear into healthcare costs. Therefore, the demand is that pensioners should not only receive a better pension but should also have access to healthcare support. In simple terms, the demand has three major components. Higher minimum pension. Inflation relief through VDA. Healthcare protection through Ayushman Bharat. Why the Ayushman Bharat demand matters. The BMS wants EPS 95 pensioners to receive relief from the growing cost of healthcare. For elderly pensioners, medical expenses can become one of the biggest financial burdens. Therefore, even if the pension is increased, health expenses could continue to create financial pressure. That is why the demand for Ayushman Bharat is being presented alongside the pension demand. The objective is to provide pensioners with both income security and health security. What would 7,500 rupee mean for low pension EPS 95 pensioners? If the minimum pension is eventually increased to 7,500 rupees, pensioners currently receiving the minimum amount could see a significant improvement in their monthly income. For a pensioner who depends heavily on the monthly pension, even a substantial increase could make a difference to household budgeting. It could help with everyday expenses. It could provide some additional support for medicines. And, if VDA is also added, it could provide a mechanism for dealing with inflation. But again, this is only the potential impact if the demand is accepted and implemented. At present, it should not be presented as a confirmed government decision. Is 7,500 rupees EPS 95 pension already approved? This is perhaps the most important question. No conclusion should be drawn that the pension has already been increased simply because the demand has been raised. The BMS has demanded 7,500 rupees. That does not automatically mean the government has approved 7,500 rupees. Pensioners should therefore wait for an official government decision. An official notification or formal announcement will be required before the new amount can be treated as an implemented pension benefit. So, if you see a social media message saying, "Government has officially approved 7,500 rupees EPS pension," you should verify whether there is an official government notification before believing or sharing it. The government now has to consider the demands placed before it. Increasing the minimum pension by such a substantial amount would have financial implications. The government would have to consider pension expenditure, the financial structure of the pension system and the broader social security framework. Therefore, there are several aspects that have to be examined before any major decision can be implemented. For EPS 95 pensioners, the important thing now is to watch for the government's official response. Does this development give pensioners new hope? It certainly brings the issue back into focus. EPS 95 pensioners have been raising concerns about the low minimum pension for a long time. Now, with the BMS once again placing the demand for 7,500 rupee minimum pension, along with VDA and Ayushman Bharat benefits, the issue has received renewed attention. This does not mean the demand has been approved. But it does mean that the issue remains active and continues to be raised before the government. The next major development will depend on the government's response. The three key demands for EPS 95 pensioners. So, if you are an EPS 95 pensioner, remember these three key points. Number 1. Minimum EPS 95 pension of 7,500 rupee per month. Number 2. VDA should be added to the pension. Number 3. EPS 95 pensioners should receive Ayushman Bharat benefits. These are the 3 most important points directly concerning EPS 95 pensioners in this development. So, the big question remains. Will the government increase the minimum EPS 95 pension from around 1,000 rupee to 7,500 rupees? Will VDA be added? Will EPS 95 pensioners finally receive broader healthcare protection through Ayushman Bharat? At this point, the responsible thing to say is, these are demands placed before the government. They should not yet be presented as confirmed or implemented benefits. The final outcome will depend on the government's decision and any official notification that follows. So, EPS 95 pensioners should stay alert, but also avoid believing unverified claims. Always check official announcements before accepting any pension-related news as final. If you are an EPS 95 pensioner, what do you think? Should the government approve 7,500 rupee minimum pension plus VDA? And should Ayushman Bharat benefits be extended to EPS 95 pensioners? Share your opinion in the comments. If this information is useful, share it with other EPS 95 pensioners so that they can also understand what is actually being demanded and what has not yet been officially approved. For more updates on EPS 95 pension, EPFO, pensions and senior citizens, stay connected with us. If you found this information valuable, please share it in your WhatsApp and Facebook groups. Comment below with your questions and don't forget to subscribe for fact-based updates. Thank you for watching this video.